Hello, hello, hello. Welcome to Conspiracy Corner Podcast, everyone. This is Abe, your host. Today is June 14th, 2026. I am off today. Worked yesterday. Got off this morning, and then I was gonna put out at least like a couple podcasts this morning, but I ended up doing some chores and stuff like washing the dishes, bathed and shaved, um, did some laundry, and by the time I got done with all that, it was like pretty much time for bed and after eating and stuff. So I'm like, yeah, I'm just gonna go to bed. But besides that, just been hanging out with the missus. She's on vacation this week, so I don't know. I may or may not end up doing more podcasts or less. I'm not sure. Just been busy with work and all that shit. I have been getting back into gaming though. I'm super close to beating this 102 Dalmatians, puppies to the rescue. So I will be doing a game review most likely on this. I'm pretty sure I have enough content for it. It's a long enough game. I have enough to talk about it to do an episode on. I'm also, sometimes I play multiple games. So Sammy had bought me this a while back and I didn't even know. I guess she had forgotten about it. Dragon Ball Advanced Adventure. I've always wanted to play this since I was a kid. So currently kind of playing both. Like if I get stuck on one, I'll jump on the other and play it for a little bit and then go back to the other one. But yeah. So look forward to that. As far as plugs, I have a Buy Me a Coffee account set up in the link below. If you donate to the channel, I will send you a Conspiracy Corner bumper sticker. These things are durable as hell. My wife has one on a coffee mug. The thing has been washed 1,000 times and it still holds up. And I will also send you a Conspiracy Corner podcast bookmark. And I will sign the back. Unless you don't want me to. Then you can message me through Buy Me a Coffee. But that's in the link below if you want to help out the channel. Helps pay for pens, papers, notebooks, flash drives, all that shit. Let's get on with the show. Yeah, sorry about no intro music today. Sammy's sleeping, so I try not to play intro music because I don't want to like blast it and wake her up, you know. My phone has been blowing up too. Frankie Rose has been messaging me. He's someone I plan on doing a podcast with in the near future. We're still kind of setting it up. He's a busy dude. I'm a busy dude. We'll figure it out. He's a punk rock dude like me. He used to be a pro BMX rider. So most of the talk will probably be about punk rock and BMX. Yeah, he's a pretty cool dude, and I was like, yeah, come on the podcast because he's got a lot of interesting stories and photos, and I've never interviewed a pro BMX rider, so I was like, yeah, that'd be a cool interview. As far as Blue Pill. So if you hear the vibrating, that's him. He likes to message like 15, 16 messages in a row. He's a crazy person. So we haven't covered Epstein in a little while. There's been a lot of distractions as far as like ufology, the fake alien disclosure, all that bullshit. Well, it could be real alien disclosure, but I think it's a distraction from the Epstein files. Honestly, man, for a while, dude, the Epstein files to me were like the most important thing to be talking about. I ain't gonna lie, here lately too, I've been talking a lot about like AI centers and shit because the Epstein files were my number one priority, and then all this AI data center shit started happening, and my thing is, it's like, okay, cool, if we get the Epstein files, will any of those people be arrested and charged? Probably not. But it would help for the public to know, like, who runs the world. The normies, the blue pill people. But if you don't have a world, if these data centers are literally going to destroy the world, which I truly believe they will, it'll end up like some Blade Runner dystopia. 1984, like police state 24/7. Yeah, like what's the point in having the files if we're just in some dystopia? So I don't know. But I do want to talk about this. So I had just heard about this today. I'm just now getting reports on this today and yesterday. But apparently it happened 4 days ago. 4 days ago now. It's just past midnight. So about 3 days ago, this just came out. And it's some Epstein-related shit, and it's pretty crazy. So listen to this. The Situation Room scramble over sick Trump fetish claim revealed. And you guys know me. I'm uncensored. I do not censor myself. I've actually noticed that I get less strikes censoring myself. There's a High Impact Flicks, Brian. He also has a channel, Here's the Deal. Shout outs to him. Tell him who sent you. Maybe he'll shout me out one day. He actually put forth the idea that self-censoring actually gets you in more trouble. And when I was self-censoring and using code words, I probably was training the AI and didn't even realize it, along with other creators. And I've actually gotten less strikes and shit from self-censoring. But a lot of people are kind of covering this, but they're censoring themselves. And finally, one day, I just gave up and stopped censoring. And I've actually had less trouble from not censoring and just not giving a fuck and saying whatever the fuck I want. So this is a pretty raunchy story. You guys know me. This podcast has always been 18 and up. I've always told people, like, your kids should not be around while listening to this. But yeah, let's get into it. Situation Room scramble over sick Trump fetish claim revealed. Senior officials weighed whether to publish a retracted accusation about the president's sexual conduct. And this is Epstein file related. Senior Trump officials sat in a secure bunker at the White House and debated a discredited accusation that the president is fixated on women's nipples. Which, by the way, Trump is all through those fucking files. You know, at first I was like, oh, he had nothing to hide because, like, when he was running for presidency, he literally was like, yeah, I'm going to release the files, and he pretty much ran on that. It does blow my mind all the QAnon people are still stuck on Trump is a good guy and innocent, when back in the day they were obsessed with the Epstein files, and now suddenly they don't care about the files anymore. Isn't the whole point of QAnon was to stop, like, pedophilia and pedivores and the cabal? And I don't know, they've just lost their way, it seems, because they became obsessed with Trump and made him into basically a messiah figure. I think they actually like Trump more than Jesus Christ, as weird as it sounds, even though it's a Christian cult, QAnon, you know. He's more deified than Jesus now. It's weird. The discussion unfolded during a crisis meeting in the Situation Room last August over the Jeffrey Epstein scandal, the New York Times reported in an explosive expose Wednesday. Donald Trump's team was weighing whether a planned, searchable Justice Department database would dredge up humiliating claims about him and his past relationship with the late pedophile. And we've covered this before, of like, he's lied about his relationship with Jeffrey Epstein. Same as all the rest of them, like Bill Gates, Elon Musk. They're all fucking lying about their ties to Jeffrey Epstein. We know that they were friends for like 10 years. We've covered the birthday book on this channel. Go check that episode out. Honestly, if you want to, Epstein has been the biggest playlist on YouTube that I have created as far as episodes, because I I think this is one of the most important things we should be talking about. So go check out that playlist, man. Add it to your channel if you want, your profile. And anytime it's updated, you'll automatically get updates on your playlist too. That's the beautiful thing about YouTube. But yeah, I mean, he was best friends with him for 10 years. They hung out together all the time. Epstein frequented Mar-a-Lago. And what it was is there was bad blood between a real estate deal. That's the real reason why they stopped hanging out. Had nothing to do with, Epstein being a creep. And no, it was a real estate deal that went bad, So, one of those claims had reportedly surfaced fast while stress testing a prototype for the database. Official searches of early version of the site found that among the first Trump-related hits was an allegation from Epstein accuser Sarah Ransom. And I kid you not, that is literally how her name is spelled. Ransome. Drawn from a settled civil case. So this civil case is settled. It wasn't a criminal case, it sounds like, so it's probably out of court, Trump paying off an alleged victim. I have to say alleged for legal reasons. So, I've noticed with a lot of these cases and conspiracies that we cover, the last names, it's always the last name is always really weird, and it makes me almost think that most of these conspiracies and shit are psyops in some way. Like, this chick's last name is Ransom. What is a ransom? Of something you hold over on someone, of like, hey, I got your daughter, pay the ransom and you can have her back. I don't think this shit's coincidences. Like, Anthony Weiner gets caught sending a picture of his literal wiener to an underage girl. It's like you can't make this shit up. Either reality is stranger than fiction, and this is all a fucking simulation, and sometimes the simulation, like, gives you a little poke on the shoulder with little hints, or I'm just crazy and schizophrenic and seeing way too much into this. But do you all notice that all of these big cases, like, these people have, like, the weirdest last names that are somehow related to the case? Like, you can't make this shit up. I just notice things like that. I'm weird like that. I don't know. I just think it's funny. Like, her last name was Ransom. And she has a ransom over on Trump. In emails to a reporter, Ransom alleged that a girl Epstein had trafficked, known as Jen. Okay, so she's talking about another girl named Jen. Told her she slept with Donald Trump and described him as fixated on nipples and physically rough with hers. You guys know me. I'm not kink shaming if it comes to two consensual parties. I'm pretty simple. I've got like 3 or 4 rules as far as like sexuality. Don't fuck with kids. Don't fuck with animals. And always make sure it's between consenting adults, Pretty simple. Besides that, you could do whatever the fuck you want in the bedroom. I don't give a fuck. I'm a freak in the bedroom. But I am going to judge a little bit because, like, for one, if this girl, Jen is her name, if this girl, Jen, is underage, that's automatic pedophilia. What was one of my rules? Don't fuck with kids. So she does not have consent. And also, like, I never understood the whole rough sex shit. So, like, me and my wife, my current wife, are like, I'm on my second marriage. We're super sexually compatible, I think, She's the most sexually compatible I've ever been with anyone in my life. Hence why we've been married for 10 years. You know, our anniversary is this year in December. My ex-wife, though, like, Dina, she was super into the whole rough shit of, like, choking and spanking and calling her the most vile names in the book. Like I said, I'm pretty open sexually. I will do something that I'm uncomfortable with if it makes my partner happy. I think that's part of marriage, you know, of like, hey, maybe I'm not in the mood, but I'm going to do it anyways for you. To me, that's just a nice thing to do. That's the way I look at it. So I would partake in that rough type of shit. I have in the past, you know, choking and spanking and pulling hair and shit because she was molested as a kid. And for some reason it fucked her brain up because she was very mentally ill and that's what she was into. But I never understood it because I never enjoyed that. I would always feel like shit afterwards. Of like, yeah, like, I don't, you're my wife, like, I love you, you know? So his obsession with just being super rough with nipples is just odd to me. I don't get it. I don't know. I just don't get the whole rough sex thing. I mean, there's times I've watched pornography and I literally have to, like, turn it off because the man is just, like, being horrible and degrading and evil to the woman, and I'm just like, okay, this ain't even fun to watch. Like, I'm literally getting turned off by this. So the nipples, Ransom added, looked incredibly painful as they were red and swollen when she glimpsed them in a shared bathroom. So it sounds like both were victims, Sarah Ransom and this Jen girl. And I'm guessing after the sex act, they both went off to the bathroom. You know, girls hang out in bathrooms together. I don't know if you've ever been around women, but it's what they do. And apparently, yeah, he was just over here, allegedly, just fucking these nipples up. I don't fucking get it. By the way, people are calling this Nipple Gate. It's a horrible title for it because Nipple Gate was actually years ago with Janet Jackson at the Super Bowl when she flashed her nipple. So if you're typing in Nipplegate, you're not going to find anything but Janet Jackson and Justin Timberlake in like 2000, back when I was a kid. So we should probably stop using things that have already been named that, which is a whole nother psyop within itself. You know, like Disney's Frozen Head. Every time you type in Disney Frozen, the movie's going to pop up. Black Panthers, if you want to look up history of Black Panthers, now the only thing you're going to find that pops up is the stupid Black Panther movie. You know, if you want to look up the story of, what's her name, Taylor Swift, you know, being a climate activist and using private jets and people calling her out on that, all you're going to find is Taylor Swift dating the New York Jets quarterback. They do this shit on purpose, and I think that's why they're calling this Nipplegate. So if you try to research it, the only thing you're going to find is Janet Jackson and Justin Timberlake. We've talked about this multiple times on the channel, so I'm preaching to the choir. You guys already know. It's how they cover up stories using the algorithm. They don't want you to know this shit. So Vice President J.D. Vance argued for releasing the material anyway, telling the group Trump would be all right with doing so. Quote, "I think we should put it out," he said. "It would cause people to say we are going further than we need to." How old were these girls, by the way? I want to know that. And it's not mentioned. I'm very curious how old they were. Were they underage? You know? Susie Wiles, Trump's chief of staff, shot back that the president would not be fine with it ending the debate. She's not wrong. He hasn't been fine with any of this Epstein shit. What was it? Marjorie Taylor Greene. She's like, hey, like, I'm getting death threats with my son, you know? And he's like, good, you deserve it. you know, and she's like, why? And he's like, because you want to release the Epstein files. And she's like, well, why don't you want to? And his literal response, allegedly, from what she said, was, because my friends are in the files. You know? And it's like, yeah, and you're in the files a shit ton. One official called it surreal to have been discussing the president's alleged sexual preferences in perhaps the most heavily fortified location in the country. Yeah, it's kind of sad that the Situation Room or the bunker, whatever they were in, is being held of, like, how do we cover up the president's kinks and him being in the files so goddamn much. Very sad day for America. You know, we're like on the 250th anniversary of America, and I'm not gonna lie, people, I'm not trying to be black-pilled. I love my nation, but I hate my government. I'm not feeling very patriotic this year. Just gonna say, you know, I haven't been feeling very patriotic at all since COVID, really. Yeah, we are like not the good guys right now. An official had already flagged that the claim was effectively public. Quote, "This is out there," the person reportedly said. "They are going to make a huge scene of this, even though it's not true and everyone knows it." Well, I don't know about that. But I'm going to make a big scene out of it because I think that Donald Trump is one of the, probably he will go down in history as one of the worst presidents that we've ever had. You know, and I thought Biden was horrible. I used to say Biden was probably the worst president that we ever had, but I'm not gonna lie, dude. Looking back on Biden's administration, it is not as bad as what's going on right now. And you guys will see that within the next couple months when there's food shortages and gas prices are through the roof and you're struggling to pay electric bills because of data centers, and we are heading towards a dystopia. I seriously think we are in the fall of Rome state. It's going to get rough before this year is over. And then next year is going to be probably Weimar Germany type of status. Not going to lie. Hence why I need to get my electric bike. Yes, I would like to get a car, but honestly, if gas prices are just going to go through the fucking roof, wouldn't it just be better for me to get an electric bike? I need to get both, honestly, it sounds like, but while I can afford both, knock on wood. Ransom's account carried heavy caveats. She had separately claimed to possess sex tapes of powerful men, then walked that back, citing fears for her family. Yeah. I don't blame her for walking that back. Look what they did to Virginia Giuffre. We covered Virginia Giuffre like 2 or 3 episodes. It's in the Epstein playlist that I made. In my opinion, they took that girl out. So, yeah. I don't... And then we covered some New York model the other day getting kidnapped. That whole case was really weird. I still don't know, is that girl even okay? It was some model from Italy, I believe. Italian model. She just disappeared and her phone wasn't working and she was Epstein connected as a victim, you know. Much of the room treated the nipple allegation as long discredited, the Times found, while some aides were hearing it for the first time. The accusation was never charged or independently verified. Trump's director of communications, Stephen Chung, previously called Ransom's claims, quote-unquote, baseless accusations that had been, quote-unquote, fully retracted because they are simply false and have no merit. I don't trust any of the retractions that have been made with the FBI and this whole case. First of all, they've been sketchy the entire time with all their redactions. They were by law. First of all the files were supposed to be released by December of last year. It is now June, and we still have not gotten all of the Epstein files. That's not even legal. We should be suing the fuck out of the FBI. Kash Patel is an alleged alcoholic, where they have to literally bust into his office, allegedly, to get him, because he passed out drunk. Pam Bondi has been a shit show. Bongino is a fucking idiot. He thinks he can just go back to podcasting now and like everyone's just going to be cool with him. I never trusted that motherfucker to begin with. You know why? I have a buddy who's a Q-tard, and he kept trying to get me to check out Dan Bongino, and I listened to like one or two podcasts, and it felt to me like he was in the whole QAnon community, and I'm like, nope, because I was already like 1 foot out the door of the QAnon shit. I checked it out. I wanted to at least check it out. So I never trusted that motherfucker. Plus, he was like Secret Service for the Clintons. Like, you know, he was seeing shit and just not saying what he was seeing. Like, I've heard horror stories of like kids going into the Hillary Clinton's office allegedly and then never coming back out again. Like, and the Secret Service was just covered it up and never said nothing because they feared for their own lives and their own families, you know. Dark shit. So let's see the people's thoughts on this. Let's go through the comments. So, this is from Felix Monoculus. If it's in the files, it should be released. Truth or otherwise of contents is the test for the redaction, and Susie Wiles, Trumps, or anyone in the meeting described are not the ones who get to decide what is or is not redacted and what is or is not released, or what is true or what is not, someone else said. Also, too, the only thing, like I said, which I just said a few seconds ago, they were only supposed to redact the victims' names. We now have a girl named Jen and a Susan Ransom. We already know the victims now. So, if the only thing they were retracting was the victims' names, too late. It's already out on the press. It's hot on the press right now. So there's no story for redactions. By law, they were supposed to release all the files by December of last year and only redact the victims' names and victims' informations. So, all the victims' name and shit is out there. So, too late for that. Put the file out, you know. Stop trying to cover shit up. So, Patty Spark Anderson says, I think it's time for the victims to release the identities of the men who abused them. Forget the files, which we all know we will never see the full light of day. It's for the victims to stand up and tell their truths. That's the only way this horrible chapter can end. I agree wholeheartedly, and we actually covered that. We did a whole episode on it. The episode was titled, We Are Going to Get the Epstein Files, ... but it's not what you think. So to sum that episode up quickly, if you want to listen to it, it's in the playlist, the Epstein playlist, but I will also try to link related episodes down below in Spotify if you're a listener on there. To sum it up quickly though, tons of these victims said, well, we're not getting the files, so we're just going to release our own files. They threatened it. They never ended up doing it because they released the Epstein files shortly after that. Not all of the Epstein files, but some of them. So the victims kind of backed off. They need to honestly threaten that shit again. Do another public announcement like they did last time and say, well, we still haven't got all the files, so now we're still going to go through with releasing our own files. Which we know there will be more transparency and more truth in those files than the actual Epstein files. So I would rather hear the victims' testimonies and see what their files are. Honestly, I would love to pick up Virginia Giuffre's book. She wrote a book that came out either before or right after her death. It's out there. I want to pick it up. I need to order it. and we can just go through it and cover it for the podcast, you know. But we'll wrap it up there. This is what the recent story was, and I also have another story. I may put out another podcast today. Maybe one or two more, maybe three or four more. I don't know. The next one's going to be Bill Gates testifying here recently. So let me know what you guys think of this weird, crazy nipple story with Donald Trump and the White House trying to cover it up. Love y'all. Please like, share, and subscribe, and stay tuned. I will most likely put out another episode today.